All right. So, Jason C, would you mind reading this one?
Okay. In HTML, a list of content models. In HTML, elements typically belong in either the block level or inline content model. HTML5 introduces 7 main content models: metadata, embedded, interactive, heading, phrasing, flow, sectioning. The HTML5 content models are designed to make the markup structure more meaningful for both the browser and the web designer.
All right. And what do you think the answer is?
It's 7. Is that
Perfect? All right. Mike, can you read this one?
All right, there we go. Sorry. Content models, metadata, content that sets up the presentation or behavior of the rest of the content. These elements are found in the head of the document. The elements are base, link, meta, no script, script, style, and title. Embedded content that imports other resources into the document, such as audio, video, canvas, iframe, image, math, object, or SVG. And interactive, which is content that's specifically intended for user interaction, such as the attribute, tag, audio, video, button, details, embed, iframe, image, input, label, object, select, and text area. The heading tag, or the heading, which defines a section header, such as H1 through H6 or HG or H group. And phrasing, this model has a number of inline level elements in common with HTML4, such as image span, strong label, break, small, sub, and more. And the same element can belong to more than one content model.
All right. Let's hit continue. And what do you think the answer for this one is?
Sure. Where is metadata located in an HTML5? And that would be put in the head tag.
Perfect. And you can think of metadata as data for other data. It's a good way to think of it. But all right. Patricia A, can you read this one?
Content models, flow content contains the majority of HTML5 elements that would be included in the normal flow of the document. Sectioning content defines the scope of headings, content, navigation, and footers. Elements, article, aside, nav, section. The various content models overlap in certain areas depending on how they are being used.
Okay. And what do you think the answer is here? And we can go back if you need to.
It's the flow content.
Perfect. All right. So let's move along to 28. And Roger, can you read this one?
Page structures in HTML5. A generic HTML5 page structures looks like this. You may not need some of these elements depending on your page structure.
And a little about this. So as I was saying, pretty much all this can be done with div, the divide element, and then IDing, but they just it's more clear what you're referencing, and then you can, instead of doing dot whatever for the class name or hashtag whatever for the ID, to reference what the specific div, you can just do nav in CSS and stuff. But it's really just it's not like it does anything special, any of these things like the nav element or article or section. And articles generally, if like I mean, you will see it sometimes in other people's programming, but it's pretty much articles generally for like blogs or like actual articles and stuff. Generally you'll use just section instead. And yeah, okay, let's move on. And what do you think the answer is here? We got to rearrange it.
Rearrange the following blocks to create a generalized HTML5 page structure. So header would be first.
Good.
Nav.
Good.
Article.
Yep. All right, and let's hit that. And that's good. All right, good job. Let's move along to 29. Bill C, can you read this one?
The header element. In HTML4, we would define a header like this. In HTML5, a simple header tag is used instead. The element header is appropriate for use inside the body tag. Note that the header is completely different from the head tag.
Yeah, headers, yeah, nothing to do with your head tag. Let's go on. And what's the answer here?
The header element is appropriate to use at the top of the document.
No. Well, I mean, that is kind of right. But when they say document, they're talking about like at the top of the whole HTML document, which
So inside the head tag?
nope. Lewis gave you Lewis gave it away.
The body tag.
Yeah. So I could definitely see why you're saying at the top, because like it's at the top of the body, but that was kind of like a trick question. So let's go on. All right. Brian A, can you read this one?
The footer element is also widely used. Generally, we refer to a section located at the very bottom of the web page as the footer. The following information is usually provided between these tags: contact information, privacy policies, social media icons, terms of service, copyright information, sitemap related documents.
And here, I'll do a quick example of all that on sec. So like on the MOPH page, you know, here's your nav. And then, you know, down here at the bottom of the page is your footer with like all your links and contact info and stuff. And generally you have the same footer on each page of your other documents. I think we only have this very bottom footer though, the copyright stuff at the bottom on the MOPH ones, but if your footer wasn't so big, you'd have it like on every page. Actually, it might be. I don't really remember. Hold on. Let's see. Never mind. We do put the whole thing on there. Okay. All right. All right. I'll let you take back over for screen share. And what do you think the answer is?
Which tag specifies the footer element? Footer.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. All right. Why does my order keep bouncing all around? Mike, can you read this one?
The nav element. This tag represents a section of a page that links to other pages or to certain sections within the page. This would be a section with navigation links. And here's an example of a major block. Not all of the links in a document should be inside a nav element. The nav element is intended only for major blocks of navigation links. Typically, the footer element often has a list of links that don't need to be in the nav element.
Yeah, so like your footer links are just like links to outside websites, but like your nav is like how to navigate this your website that they're on. Okay, what's the answer here?
You're going to start with the head, then the header, then the nav, then the footer.
Awesome. All right, let's continue along. And actually, I'm gonna take a break real quick. I'm gonna go grab some more water. So just be 1 sec. All right. So, let's see who's up. Sandra, can you read this one?
Sure. The article element. Article is a self-contained independent piece of content that can be used and distributed separately from the rest of the page or site. This could be a forum post, a magazine or newspaper article, a blog entry, a comment, an interactive widget or gadget, or any other independent piece of content. The article element replaces the div element that was widely used in HTML4, along with an ID or class. When an article element is nested, the inner element represents an article related to the outer element. For example, blog post comments can be article elements nested in the article representing the blog post.
Okay, and it says replacing div, but it does not replace div. Everybody uses div all the time. You have to. But anyway, let's hit continue.
The article element, which element was usually used in HTML4 instead of the article tag? Let me go back here. H1?
No.
Oh.
I'll give you a hint. I just mentioned it. I said you still use it all the time. Oh, he gave it away for you. So
I'm not looking at you guys' page. I'm looking at mine. So this is the P. Oh, div.
div.
I knew that. I knew that.
No worries. All right. Samantha, can you read this one?
The section element. Section is a logical container of the page or the article. Sections can be used to divide content within an article. For example, a home page could have a section for introducing the company, another for news items, and still another for contact information. Each section should be identified typically by including a heading, H1 through H6 element, as a child of the section element.
All right. Well, let's hit continue, and then I'll show you guys another example.
The section element should be used only inside of an article element. False.
Correct, it is false. All right, so I'm gonna take over screen share again real quick. So again, back to the MOPH site. So this whole top part right here is got like our header, and then you've got the nav in there, and then this part right here is a section. This next part, how it from here to here with the different colors, picture in the background, that's a section. That's a section. We don't really use, here's another section. And then, like I said before, here's the footer. Yeah, I don't really use article unless it's like a blog or something like that. But you definitely will have lots of different sections on your web page, especially like your landing page, where you generally put out like a lot of information, unless you keep it like a small landing page and then they navigate around. But yeah, so all right, I'll let you take over screen share again. All right, so Jacob M, would you mind reading this one?
Aside, the aside element. Aside is secondary or tangential content, which could be considered separate from but directly related to the main content. This type of content is often represented in sidebars when an aside tag is used within the article tag. The content of the side tag should be specifically related to the article. When the aside tag is used outside of the article tag, its content should be related to the surrounding content.
So again, aside is just like if you're doing something off to the right or whatever. All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer here? We can go back if you need to. I'll give you a hint. It's answered in the first sentence.
The secondary.
Perfect. Okay, and let's continue. So any questions so far? Again, you guys can interrupt me anytime you guys have questions. But are you guys tracking everything so far? It all making sense?
Yeah, so far.
It seems like all these different sections are just a more specified div section. Is that
Yeah,
what I understand?
yeah, perfect. It's just a easier way to
reference them?
instead of doing like a footer and then ID equals footer or whatever, you just reference, you put in a footer tag and reference it as footer for CSS. And it'll make a lot more sense once we get to CSS and you start working with divs and IDs and classes and stuff to style things differently. But yeah, it's just a specific way to reference what you're trying to style or to do. All right, so let's move on. And Lewis, you're actually next one up. So
Audio on the web. Before HTML5, there was no standard for plain audio files on a web page. The HTML5 audio element specifies a standard for embedding audio in a web page. There are two different ways to specify the audio source file's URL. The first uses a source attribute. The second way uses the source element inside the audio element. Multiple source elements can be linked to different audio files. The browser will use the first recognized format.
Yeah, so the only reason or need to put more than one is if that browser isn't going to recognize it. But if you use a standard that pretty much all browsers have, unless they're using some rinky-dink home-built browser, then yeah, it's going to recognize like the MP3 or something. So, all right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Was audio is the first one.
Yes.
Audio source SRC is the
Yeah.
second one.
Yep, perfect.
It's a coding class.
There we go.
Hey, quick question, Brendan.
Uh-huh.
If you don't use, so in this example they provided, they use the opening tag of audio with a closing tag of audio, but they included the controls word next to audio. If you didn't put controls in there and just had an opening tag of audio and a closing tag of audio, would it still have a audio file there, or is that basically does the controls word designate giving it controls or not?
I don't know. I've never tried it without it.
Okay, forget it. That's my brain just being my brain.
So if you want to play around with it, when we get to the play around time, you can try it with the controls and without.
Yeah,
And
sounds good.
If you do play around with that, then just let me know, so we can tell the rest of the class whether it's really necessary.
Sure.
All right. Let's hit continue. Wait, did we read this? I don't even remember. Yeah, I think we did. Okay, let's hit continue. Okay, so what's the answer? Was it Lewis? Did you just read that one?
I read the previous one. We haven't read this
Okay,
one.
so we didn't do that one. My bad. I have a horrible memory. I'm sure a lot of y'all do. You got TBI.
I got hit in the head a lot.
Blown up, yeah, blown up. And,
Yeah, who doesn't have a bad memory?
right. All right. Franklin D, would you mind reading this one?
Audio on the web. The audio element creates an audio player inside the browser. Results.
Oh, can you scroll down? Yeah, thanks.
The text between the audio and the audio tags will display in the browser and do not support the audio element.
Okay. Let's hit continue. Let's go to the next one.
Audio on the web. The text in between the audio tag is for not support browsers or supported browsers.
Yeah, good. For not supported browsers. All right, let's hit continue. Kevin B, can you read this one?
Attributes of audio. Controls specifies that audio controls should be displayed, such as play, pause button, etc. Autoplay. When this attribute is defined, audio starts playing as soon as it is ready without asking for the visitor's permission. Loop. This attribute is used to have the audio replay every time it is finished. Currently, there are 3 supported file formats for the audio element: MP3, WAV, and OGG.
All right, so let's move on. And what's the answer?
Attributes of audio. Which of the following is not an attribute of the audio element? Repeat.
Good. All right, let's move along. Dexter Lowe, can you read this one?
Videos in HTML. The video element is similar to the audio element. You can specify the video source URL using an attribute in a video element or using source elements inside the video element. Another aspect that the audio and video elements have in common is that the major browsers do not all support the same file types. If the browser does not support the first video type, it will try the next one.
So most are gonna, most if not all, will support MP4. So if you're gonna use something, go with that. All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Video,
Mm-hmm.
the first one.
Yep.
SRC for the second one.
Good.
And then source.
Perfect. Okay, and let's hit check and continue. And Mark H, can you read this one?
Attributes of videos. Another aspect shared by both the audio and the video elements is that each has controls, autoplay, and loop attributes. In this example, the video will replay after it finished playing. Currently, there are 3 supporting video formats for the video element: MP4, WebM, and OGG.
Okay, let's hit continue. All right, and what's the answer?
MP4 file first. Let's see. Video controls.
For the top one, video controls, yeah.
Yeah. Then source SRC.
Yep.
With the MP4.
Mm-hmm.
Should be source SRC video a.ogg.
Good.
Video is not supported by your browser, and the closing video.
Yep. All right, hit check and continue. And Fabian, can you read this one?
Sure. Progress bar. The progress bar element provides the ability to create progress bar on the web. The progress element can be used within headings, paragraphs, or anywhere else in the body. Progress element attribute, value, specifies how much of the task has been completed. Max, specify how much work the task requires in total. Use the progress tag in conjunction with JavaScript to dynamically display a task's progress.
Okay. Let's hit continue. So with the progress bar, yes, you can do it with JavaScript if like you're using JavaScript to do everything, like as far as like all the questions and stuff, like every time they get done with one question, it opens a new question all on the same page. But what you can also do is if like you're having, let's say you're building for a company a onboarding website, right? Where new hires have to fill out all this different information, right? And so let's say there was just 4 pages or whatever, then you could just do 25%, then 50%, and 75, and then 100 on each different pages, and you could just program hard code it, since like each time they click next page, and then it populates a new page using post like we were talking about the other day. So you could do it that way too. Okay, but what's the answer here?
The first one is progress.
Good.
You're missing an R. Yeah. The next one is value.
Uh-huh.
And then the last one is 63.
All right. And we are back up to the top. Mike, can you read this one? Oh, you're muted.
All right. HTML5 web storage. With HTML5 web storage, websites can store data on a user's local computer. Before HTML5, we had to use JavaScript cookies to achieve this functionality. The advantages of web storage include more secure, faster, stores a larger amount of data. Stored data is not sent with every server request. Local storage is per domain. All pages from one domain can store and access the same data.
All right, let's hit continue.
And prior to HTML5, application data was stored in the cookies.
Good. Yeah, and you guys will be working with sessions in once well, probably not until Python, but yeah, eventually you guys will be working with sessions, which is like a web storage. But oh, all right, let's hit continue. Brian A.
Types of web storage objects. There are two types of web storage objects: session storage, local versus sessions. Session storage is destroyed once the user closes the browser. Local storage stores data with no expiration date. You need to be familiar with the basic JavaScript in order to understand and use the API.
Okay, and we're actually going to be doing it with Python rather than JavaScript, but let's hit continue. And what are the answers?
Local storage and session storage.
Perfect. Okay, Patricia A.
Working with values. The syntax for web storage for both local and session storage is very simple and similar. The data is stored as key value pairs. The same syntax applies to the session storage with one difference. Instead of local storage, session storage is used.
All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer here?
Okay, one moment.
I'll give you
Maybe
pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm. 1 moment. I think I'm having a little trouble with this web storage API.
Well, what's the first thing you need to do?
Set item or storing a value, I guess.
Well, no,
Wait.
let's read what it says. Drag and drop the options to clear all the values stored in local storage. So what do you think we need to do?
Oh, okay, clear. Oh my
Good.
gosh.
Good. No worries.
Yeah, I did not read that top part. Reading is
Oh.
very fundamental. Okay,
And then
set item
store
to
A using key B. So
A and B.
perfect. All right, well,
yeah.
B and A, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, B and A. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, because it's using key B. So, all right, good. Let's continue. And Roger Chang, if you could read the next one. Oh, you're muted, Roger.
All right, what is geolocation API? In HTML5, the geolocation API is used to obtain the user's geographical location. Since this can compromise user privacy, the option is not available unless the user approves it. Geolocation is much more accurate for devices with GPS like smartphones and the like.
All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
With the geolocation API, you can obtain user location.
Perfect. And this you will use, like on the MOPH site where we do find a chapter. They have the option of sharing their location, and it automatically does the nearest chapter. And if they don't want to share it, they can just type their zip code. But yeah, geolocation's really useful. All right, Bill C, can you read this one?
Using HTML geolocation. The geolocation API's main method is get current position, which retrieves the current geographic location of the user's device. Parameters. Show location, mandatory. Defines the callback method that retrieves location information. Error handler, optional. Defines the callback method that is invoked when an error occurs in processing the whatever call.
Asynchronous call.
Options, optional. Defines a set of options for retrieving the location information. You need to be familiar with basic JavaScript in order to understand and use the API.
Yeah, and what they're not showing you here is this needs to be in a script tag because it's JavaScript. So anytime you're going to do this command, it's got to be inside your script tag. And once we get to JavaScript, actually probably when we're done with JavaScript, I'll show you how to do geolocation and a few other cool JavaScript tricks. All right, let's hit continue. But yeah, don't be too worried about geolocation right now. So yeah, what's the answer?
Which choice is the mandatory parameter of the get current position method? Show location.
Perfect. All right, David S, can you read this one? Oh wait, you're doing my, never mind. You're sharing my screen. So you're exempt. Moving on. Sandra, can you read this one?
Of course, give me the hard ones. Presenting data. User location can be presented in two ways: geodetic and civic, whatever that means. The geodetic way to describe position refers directly to latitude and longitude. The civic representation of location data is presented in a format that is more easily read and understood by the average person. Each parameter has both a geodetic and a civic representation. Attribute, geotag, civic. The get current position method returns as object if it's successful. The latitude, longitude, and accuracy properties are always returned.
So generally, if you're getting the geodetic, you're going to be working with an API like Google Maps to then get more of the civic information, and that's what I do. But yeah, let's hit continue.
Civic and geodetic.
Yeah, good job. Geodetic. Good. All right. And Samantha, can you read this one?
Making elements draggable. The drag and drop feature lets you grab an object and drag it to a different location. To make an element draggable, just set the draggable attribute to true. Any HTML element can be draggable. The API for HTML5 drag and drop is event-based. What to drag? When the element is dragged on the onDragStart attribute calls a function drag event, which specifies what data is to be dragged. The data transfer set data method sets the data type and the value of the drag data. In our example, the data type is text and the value is the ID of the draggable element. Where to drop? The onDragOver event specifies where the drag data can be dropped. By default, data and elements cannot be dropped into other elements. To allow drop, we must prevent the default handling of an element. This is done by calling the event prevent default method for the onDragOver event. Do the drop. When the drag data is dropped, a drop event occurs. In the example above, the onDrop attribute calls a function drop event. The prevent default method prevents the browser's default handling of the data. Default is open to a link on drop. The drag data can be accessed with the data transfer get data method. This method will return any data that was set to the same type in the set data method. The drag data is the ID of the dragged element image. At the end, the dragged element is appended into the drop element using the append child function. Basic knowledge of JavaScript is required to understand and use the API.
So it says basic knowledge, but that's a lie. You need advanced knowledge of JavaScript to be working with drag and drop. But I will, I'll show you guys how to do that once we're done with JavaScript. And it is pretty cool. It makes web pages much more like apps. And but yeah, I'll show you how to do that. No, you guys will be advanced eventually once you get through all this. And like a lot of the drag and drop stuff is really like a write once and reuse type thing where you're going to use the same code over and over and just tweak it for what you're trying to do. So don't stress about that.
Over time, do developers like keep like a cheat sheet of just go-to code snippets and they just change the values?
Yes and no. Like I've got like I was just talking about it before class. I've got like a 62-page long sheet of things. Like when I get to what I do is when I get to something new that I haven't done before that isn't like basic, then that's generally when I'm working with somebody else's code. Like when you're working with modules that you import, that's not just like basic programming stuff. And you want to remember how, because like once I do it and walk away, I'm not gonna like remember something I did once, and I'm also not gonna want to figure it out again. So for like more advanced stuff, like you'll reference back to that stuff, and then it's just basic stuff that you'll have in your head and just know how to do. Like you'll just do it so much that you won't have to look it up or whatever. But like while y'all are first starting out, you'll be looking up stuff a lot. But no, it's not really just using stuff and then tweaking it. It is for like those specific things, like for the drag and drop stuff. Like that's in my 62-page thing, and that's like, yes, I use that and then tweak that up when I want to do drag and drop. But the majority of programming is just using your basic knowledge of programming that's in your head and then writing new code. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
How many times can HTML5 events be fired?
That's kind of
Multiple.
hard one because you got a lot.
Multiple, I'm
Oh.
guessing.
Good. Good
Okay.
job. I didn't think you were gonna remember that after having to read all that stuff. So good job.
Thanks.
All right. So moving along. Let's Jacob M. Can you read this one?
Drawing shapes. SVG standard stands for scalpel vector graphics and used
Scalable.
scalable vector graphics, and is used to draw shapes with HTML style markup. It offers several methods for drawing paths, boxes, circles, text, and graphics images. SVG is not pixel based, so it can be magnified indefinitely with no loss of quality.
Yeah. So if you want to draw, you use SVG or Canvas, and we'll cover Canvas later. But let's hit continue. What's the answer? And you can go back if you need to.
Vector.
Good. Okay. And Jason C, can you read this one?
Inserting SVG images. An SVG image can be added to HTML code with just basic image tag that includes a source attribute pointing to the image. SVG defines vector-based graphics in XML format.
So that's one way, is to import it with the source, but they'll show you more ways next. Let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
IMG.
Good.
Whoops.
We can go back if need be.
Oh, and then the yeah, I'm flipping back on my screen. The height.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. The image.
No. And I'll give you a hint. It tells you at the top. It says fill in the blanks and add my SVG to the page.
Oh, yeah. Look for the simplest solution.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's hit continue. And Lewis L, can you read this one?
Drawing a circle. To draw shapes with SVG, you first need to create an SVG element tag with two attributes, width and height. To create a circle, add a circle tag. CX pushes the center of the circle further to the right of the screen. CY pushes the center of the circle further down from the top of the screen. R defines the radius. Fill determines the color of the circle. Stroke adds an outline to the circle. Every element and every attribute in SVG files can be animated.
All right. Let's hit hit continue. And what's the answer?
SVG with what is that? A circle.
Yeah, good.
Circle CX CY.
Good.
And the radius, then the fill.
Good. And what's the final one?
Oh, grab SVG.
Good. Yeah, always look for that closing tag. All right, hit check and continue. Franklin D, can you read this one?
Other shape elements. Rect defines a rectangle. The following code will draw a green-filled rectangle. Line defines a line segment. X1, Y1 define the start coordinates. X2 Y2 defines the end coordinates. Polyline defines the shapes built from multiple line definitions. Points are the polyline's coordinates. The code below will draw a black check sign. The width and height attributes of the rect element define the height and the width of the rectangle.
Okay. And to be perfectly honest, you're usually not really drawing that advanced stuff with any of this if you use it at all on your web page. Like you might just add like a few lines for like to make it, I don't know, look cooler or whatever, or something, just for the style. But for the most part, you're not really going to be using this like too much. But let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Other shape elements, fill in the blanks to add the line to the page, starting with the coordinates 10, 20, and ending with 50 and 100. Line.
Good.
Y1.
Good.
And then X2.
Good job. All right. Dexter, can you read this one?
What's the E word?
Ellipse.
Ellipse and polygon. Ellipse. The ellipse is similar to the circle with one exception. You can independently change the horizontal and vertical axis of its radius using the Rx and Ry attributes. Polygon. The polygon element is used to create a graphic with at least 3 sides. The polygon element is unique because it automatically closes off the shape for you. Polygon comes from the Greek poly, means many, and gon means angle.
Okay, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Which of the following is an HTML5 SVG shape? Polygon.
Good. All right. Okay. Kevin B, can you read this one?
Shape animations. SVG animations can be created using the animate element. The example below creates a rectangle that will change its position in 3 seconds and will then repeat the animation twice. Attribute name specifies which attribute will be affected by the animation. From specifies the starting value of the attribute. To specifies the ending value of the attribute. Dir specifies how long the animation runs or duration. Fill specifies whether or not the attribute's value should return to its initial value when the animation is finished. Values remove resets the value. Freeze keeps the to value. Repeat count specifies the repeat count of the animation. In the example above, the rectangle changes its X attribute from 0 to 300 in 3 seconds. To repeat the animation indefinitely, use the value indefinite for the repeat count attribute.
Okay, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Which tag is used to create shape animations? Animate.
Perfect. Oh, you put animation. It's just animate. Good. All right, Mike, can you read this one?
Yeah. Paths. The path element is used to define a path. The following commands are available for path data. move to, or M for move to, L for line to, H horizontal line to, V vertical line to, C curve to, S smooth curve to, Q quadratic Bezier curve, T smooth quadratic Bezier curve to, A elliptical arc, and Z closed path. Define a path using the D attribute. M places our virtual pin down at the position 0, 0. It then moves 200 pixels down and to the right, then moves up to the position 200, 0. The Z command closes the shape, which results in a shape I can't pronounce. And all of the above commands. What's that?
Hypotenuse.
Oh, okay. I still, yeah. All of the above commands can also be expressed with their lowercase letters. When the capital letters are used, it indicates absolute position. Lowercase indicates relative position.
All right. Let's hit continue. And what's all right, what's the answer? This might not be easy to figure out.
M0.
You gotta really got a visual.
I don't know, maybe a triangle. I have no idea.
Nah, it's a square.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. And moving on to Canvas. Mark H, can you read this one?
The canvas element. The HTML canvas is used to draw graphics that include everything from simple lines to complex graph objects. The canvas element is defined by the canvas element must have a ID attribute so it can be referred to by JavaScript. Get context, return a drawing context on the canvas. Basic knowledge of JavaScript is required to understand and use the canvas.
And as we're going through this, like, if you guys are like, okay, this seems like a lot, like, how am I going to use all this? You're probably not. Like, on your guys's websites that you're building, I mean, you might draw some SVG shapes if you want to, like, add some style to it or whatever, but I mean, for the most part, you probably just add background pictures to make it look the way you want. But it's just introducing you to, like, Canvas and stuff so that you're familiar, because you will end up using Canvas like later with certain things on JavaScript, like especially when you use JS PDF, which is a way to use JavaScript to build a PDF document, and like you can take PDF documents and insert data into them and then download them and stuff. And if you want to add images, like, you'll use SVG. They're going to tell you on here you can't convert SVG to a canvas, but that's a lie. You can with little trickery. Like, you'll be using it for more advanced stuff like that. You're not going to be using this while you're just building your resume page, most likely. So don't get overwhelmed or anything. Okay, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
JavaScript.
Good. Okay, and Fabian. I'm gonna get more water while Fabian reads this. Fabian, can you read this one? Did Fabian ever read it? Fabian, you there?
I believe he wrote be right back.
They said to be right back.
Oh, well, my bad. Okay, so back up to the top, and Brian A. Can you read this one?
Cavernous coordinates. The HTML cavernous is to demonstrate two-dimensional grid. The upper left corner of the cavernous has to coordinate 0-0. X coordinate increases to the right. Y coordinates increase towards the bottom of the cavernous.
Oh, it's canvas, just like
Sorry.
kind of like a painting canvas.
The canvas element is only a container for graphics.
All right, and what's the answer?
Coordinates from the upper left corner.
Good. All right, let's hit continue. And Patricia, can you read this one?
Okay, drawing shapes. The fillrect XYWH method draws a filled rectangle in which W indicates width and H indicates height. The default fill color is black. A black 100 by 100 pixel rectangle is drawn on the canvas at the position 2020. The fill style property is used to set a color gradient or a pattern to fill the drawing. Using this property allows you to draw a green filled rectangle. The canvas supports various other methods for drawing. Draw a line, move to XY, defines the starting point of the line to XY, defines the ending point of the line, draw a circle, begin path starts the drawing arc, XYR start stop sets the parameters of the circle, stroke ends the drawing. Gradients create linear gradient, XY, X1, Y1, creates a linear gradient. Create radial gradient, XYR, X1, Y1, R1, creates a radial circular gradient. Drawing text on the canvas, font, defines the font properties for the text. Fill text, text XY, draws fill text on the canvas. Stroke text, text XY, draws text on a canvas, no fill. There are many other methods aimed at helping to draw shapes and images on the canvas. Oh my God.
And let's hit continue. And if you need to go back to see what this is, we definitely.
This is very challenging.
Yeah, if you need to go back
Okay,
to see.
Okay. Next one. I just need one moment. I think I might.
No worries, take your time.
It's hard. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna go guess and say 22.
No, it's
No,
12.
I don't
but
know.
Good try.
12?
Well, let's.
Oh,
let's
it's the last one.
Yeah. Well, let's go back and look. So just so we can explain it.
Okay, now I see it.
Yeah. See. So okay. Well, if you see it, then
Yeah, I see it now. Height is 12, so it's the last one. So 12.
yeah. There you go.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay. And let's hit continue. And continue. And actually, hold on. Go back. How much? Or click back. Let me see how much we have left. Yeah, I was thinking of just finishing it out today, but you know what? Yeah, let's just finish HTML out today. Okay. I know it's over an hour, but let's just do it. Roger Chang.
Canvas versus SVG. Canvas elements are drawn programmatically.
Good.
Drawing is done with pixels. Animations are not built in. High performance for pixels-based drawing operations. Resolution dependent. No support for event handlers. You can save the resulting image as a PNG or JPEG, JPG. Well suited for graphic intensive games. SVG. Elements are part of the page's DOM, document object model. Drawing is done with vectors. Effects such as animations are built in based on standard XML syntax, which provides better accessibility. Resolution independent. Support for event handlers. Not suited for game applications. Best suited for applications with large rendering areas, for example, Google Maps. You can actually use both SVG and Canvas on the same page if needed. However, you cannot draw SVG onto a canvas or vice versa.
And that last part, you can't draw SVG onto a canvas. That's not true. You can, but it requires trickery, and I'll show you how to do that later. Once we get done with JavaScript, and I show you guys how to use JS-PDF and then how to insert images into JS-PDF. But let's hit continue. And what's the answer? What are the answers?
Which of the following statements are true? Okay, those are really doing pixels.
Yeah, you can go back to look. There's no way you're going to remember all those.
Is it SVG needs scripts to draw elements?
No.
No. Canvas contains built-in animations.
Sorry, you picked the two incorrect ones.
Oh,
so
well, that makes it easier then.
Yeah, it's the last two. SVG has better accessibility, and in Canvas, drawing is done with pixels. But it was a good try. There was a lot in that last page, so you'd have been going back and forth and comparing, and it's all good. All right. So Bill C, can you read this next one?
Working with Canvas. The Canvas element can be transformed as an example. A text is written on the canvas at the coordinates 1030. The translate XY method is used to move the canvas. X indicates how far to move the grid horizontally, and Y indicates how far to move the grid vertically. In this example, the canvas is moved 100 px to the right and 150 px down. Canvas has several methods for drawing paths, boxes, circles, text, and adding images.
All right, and that's not to be confused with animations. If you want to do animations, you do animations. But let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Which method is used to move the canvas element? Let me go back. Transformation?
No, but you were close. It sounds close to that.
Then it would have to be.
Yeah, translate.
Translate.
Good job. All right, let's move along. Sandra, can you read this one?
The rotate method. The rotate method is used to rotate the HTML5 canvas. The value must be in radians, not degrees. Here's an example that draws the same rectangle before and after rotation is set. There's the example, blah, blah, blah. The rotation will only affect drawing made after the rotation is done.
Okay, let's hit continue.
The
And
rotate method, the rotation parameter is in radians.
perfect. And Samantha, can you read this one?
The scale method. The scale method scales the current drawing. It takes two parameters, the number of times by which the image should be scaled in the X direction, and the number of times in which the image should be scaled in the Y direction. This will scale the canvas 1.5 times in the X direction and 4 times in the Y direction. If you scale a drawing, all future drawings will also be scaled.
Okay, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Scale.
Good. All right, well, let's continue. And Jacob M, can you read this one?
HTML forms, HTML5 brings many features and improvements to web form creations. There are new attributes and input types that were introduced to help create better experiences for web users. Form creation is done in HTML5 the same way as it was in HTML4. Use the no validate attribute to avoid form validation on submission.
Okay, let's hit continue. And what's the answer here?
That would be input.
Good.
And forms.
Yep, good. Okay, let's hit just form, FORM.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought you said form.
I think I added an S on accident.
Oh, okay. Jason C, can you read this one?
New attributes. HTML5 has introduced a new attribute called Placeholder. On input and text area elements, this attribute provides a hint to the user of what information can be entered into the field. The autofocus attribute makes the desired input focus when the form loads. The required attribute tells the browser that the input is required.
So all of those you will use a lot. Like a lot of times I even just use placeholder as an entire replacement for putting any text next to it. Like up there, they get an example using label, but I hardly ever use label unless you're like trying to style that label. Generally I'll just put the text and you just type it next to it and it'll appear there. But in place of doing text, you can also do placeholder, and then just like it's scroll up a little bit. Just like you can see it in there, you know, gray or whatever, you just say like first name or whatever. It's just a different way of doing it. And then required makes it so that they have to fill that out. So like if, let's say you're having them create an account, well, I'm sure you guys know when required would be used, but like, you could have like email and, name be required, but then like address optional or whatnot. You'll use required a lot. And then autofocus, just like when they first open that page, it just automatically goes to that page or to that text field. So like it's useful in like if you're going from form page to form page, like you autofocus the first one so that then they can just start typing instead of having to like click with their mouse.
Where would you add the required attribute?
With anything that they have to like create an account or to be able to click to do the next page. So like
on what line I'm asking, like after the placeholder, or
no, yeah, just
closes,
at
or
the end. Technically, I mean,
is
you
it a
can
new
throw
tag?
you can throw it anywhere in the tag technically, but generally you throw it at the end of the tag. But it'll
outside of the tag,
no in the tag. Just
in the tag,
scroll up a little bit.
like after placeholder.
Scroll up and it'll show
It's actually
you.
in the very next slide we're doing too.
Oh, yeah, it's not okay. Yeah, I guess they don't show an example here, but yeah, it's the same place you would put it in as placeholder, like inside your input tag.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's hit continue.
When we make when we make that field required, do we have to will it automatically let the user know, like when they look at the web page,
No,
that it is required, or we have to add that on the side?
It'll tell them if they try clicking through to the next page.
Okay.
And they haven't filled it out, it'll say this field's required. But generally that's why you put like the asterisks next to like the required ones, and like you'll say on there like asterisks, fields with asterisks are required. Like you'll type that somewhere on your page to tell them. But no, it doesn't look any different because it's required.
Gotcha.
So okay, so what's the answer here?
Placeholder and autofocus.
Good. All right, and continue. And Lewis, you're up.
Forms with required fields. The required attribute is used to make the input elements required. The form will not be submitted without filling the required fields. Please, oh, so it does prompt you, right?
Yeah.
The autocomplete attribute specifies whether a form or input field should have autocomplete turned on or off. When autocomplete is on, the browser automatically complete values based on values that the user has entered before.
So like, when you like fill out your address or whatever, and like you start to type your address and then it pops up like, here's you want to just click this and fill out the rest of the form. Like that's what it's talking about there.
Oh, I see. I gave an example of how to type in the required. I thought it was going to be maybe like input required or something like that. I don't know how they.
No, it's just anywhere in the tag, but generally you put it at the end.
There's no commas or semicolons or nothing.
Nope, you just type it straight in there.
Right.
Did you read the bottom part?
Where was I? Oh, input types are not supported by old web browsers will behave as input type text that are not supported.
Yeah, so what it's saying there is if you're doing any of these input types, so like if you do input type tel for telephone, right? If they don't have that, it'll just go to input type text, and really you use input type text is what you use the vast majority of the time. I do, but like I like using, like if it's a tel, as if it's a phone, using tel, because then like if they're on a smartphone, it pops up and has the keypad for them to be able to punch the number as opposed to just their full keyboard and having to click number and all that stuff. It makes it easier for them. And so it's good to get specific. It actually does, it is different as opposed to like a lot of things and that it's just like, okay, it's for referencing. Well, no, in a lot of cases, it does it different. And like for email, like if you do email, well, emails was not listed on here because it was in the old one. Like if they don't put the @ or whatever, then it doesn't let them finish it. It says, no, this needs to be an actual email. So these are helpful to use. All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Designate the username field as required and focus on the name field when the page loads. Text required.
That's the next one, but what's the first one?
Input.
Now remember, it wants you to autofocus on the name field when it first loads.
Is it autocomplete?
Nope, because it wants you to autofocus. It's autofocused.
Okay. Focus.
Okay. Make sure you spell that right. Yeah. Good. All right. And Franklin D, can you read the next one once we get it pulled up?
Creating a search box. The new search input type can be used to create a search box. Results, how to. You must remember to set a name for your input, otherwise nothing will be submitted.
Okay. Let's hit continue. And to do that, you're gonna have to add like a bunch of stuff to actually have it be useful. But
Creating a search box. Fill in the blank to create a search box. Input type search.
Yeah. Okay. Dexter Lowe, can you read this next one?
Search options. The data list tag can be used to define a list of predefined options for the search field. Result option defines the options in a drop-down list for the user to select. The ID of the data list element must match with the list attribute of the input box.
So and this is a lot like select boxes. You use a select box a lot in when working with forms, and the option value equals blah 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 is similar, except with select boxes you have to do a closing tag and then whatever word you want on the inside. But anyway, all right, let's hit continue. What's the answer?
Fill in the blanks to associate the input with the data list. I'm not sure on the first one.
Well, let's click back and I'll show you. Okay, so if you look at the top in the try it yourself, the top input thing, it's pretty much the same thing as on the next page.
Okay.
And you see what colors is? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
His list. Okay, hit continue.
So data list.
Well, no, just list.
Oh, list.
Yeah,
Okay, and then data list ID equals colors.
good.
And then closing input.
No, because inputs don't have
Oh.
closing tags, but that was a good
Closing
guess.
data
So
list.
look for the closing tag, but yeah, it's closing data list. It just doesn't recognize it as a word because it's not a real word. Okay. Kevin B, can you read this one?
Creating more fields. Some other new input types include email, URL, and tel. These are especially useful when opening a page on a modern mobile device, which recognizes the input types and opens a corresponding keyboard matching the field's type. These new types make it easier to structure and validate HTML forms.
I guess I should just stop giving my input because they eventually say it for me anyway. But anyway, hit continue. And what's the answer?
Which of the following is not a supported type for the input tag? Planet.
Yeah, maybe on HTML6, but no. All right, let's hit continue. All right, so almost done with HTML. Mark H, what's the answer?
Which choice is the correct HTML5 element for playing video game or video files? Video.
Good. And Fabian, what's the answer?
Which end? The last one.
No. Because we
Canvas.
use SVG. Well, we use SVG and Canvas to.
SVG is for vector element to create forms shape.
Yeah, but what do we do? What are we doing on the page generally with SVG and Canvas?
To draw graphics.
Perfect. All right. All right, back to the top. Mike.
Which tag contains the navigation, the nav tag?
Perfect. And Brian A.
Then storage stores data from the duration of how many sessions? One.
Perfect. Yeah, because session storage clears and local storage stays. All right. Patricia A.
Okay, what shape results from the following code?
Of course, they give you a really hard one.
Yeah. Okay. Perhaps a vertical line.
No, it's a plus sign. That was a hard one. It's just plus sign and continue. Like once you play around with it and or you're using it on your free time, or not on your free time, then it might start to make more sense. But yeah, that was a hard one. Okay, Roger Chang.
Fill in the blanks to turn off autocomplete and require the password field. So is this form, is that required?
No,
No.
required goes inside your input tag. So you want to turn off the autocomplete and then required.
Oh, so form autocomplete.
Good. And then what's next?
Input, text, input. Is this where required goes? No, required goes on the back end, right? The
Right.
pass.
But password is a type. Well, the name, they just named it pass. You could name it anything. You could name it Jigglypuff, and it's just a variable name. It doesn't have to be anything specific, as long as you know what you're referencing. But the type is password on, just like the type above is text for what type of field? And I'll give you a hint. You can look at the line right above it to kind of tell you what
input.
Perfect. Oh. Yeah, no, that was right. Oh. And then required. All right, Bill C. Oh, never mind. You got out of it, Bill. Yay. Congratulations. You guys have completed the HTML course. Make sure to download that. And if you do forget to download it, you can always log back in and download it later. But so now you guys can go ahead and play around. So what I also need you guys to do, so we're now going to upgrade you guys to Pro for everybody who's deciding to stay. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to need to log into your guys' accounts. So go ahead and change your password to something that's just make something different up that's not your actual password. And then email it to me what your temporary password is. And then once I change it, then change your password back. But yeah, just email me at brandon.wegner@Reading Software. And then I'm going to have to email you back a form, and you can digitally sign it or print it and sign it, just saying that, you know, you're committing to doing the full year of the class and everything. And I think that's pretty much all it says. And it doesn't say like you'll have to pay us back if you don't do the full year. It doesn't say anything like that, but it's just you know, a commitment saying you're gonna stick it through it, because I mean it is you know, it's like $70 a year per person, so they just want to make sure the people that we're upgrading are committed to the class. And if you're not willing to commit to the class for the year, then you can either upgrade it on your own or just not, because you can definitely go through it without, like you saw that we went through HTML. Any questions on that? No? Okay. So yeah, just a reminder, change your password, something temporary, email me your email and password that you set up your Sololearn, and then I'll email you the form back. Oh, let me do stop recording.